So I finally managed to get into the kitchen garden, give everything a bit of a clean up, and Debbie's done the front garden as well. And to be honest, it's the first time we've probably touched the kitchen garden for, well, back in November probably was the last time I did any work in it. And so it's only taken probably 2 hours to get it sorted out, which is not too bad an investment of time really. At the moment, the allotment's taking probably 3 hours a week of effort as well. So very leisurely time in midwinter. Anyway, let's have a look round. So I finally got around to tidying up the kitchen garden, and lots of people have been asking for a quick tour. And to be honest, there's not very much going on. This is mainly our summer garden, and we do try and get it as well planted as we can for winter. But really there isn't very much time, because the kind of summer crops are finishing in kind of August and September, and then there's a kind of rapid, mad, crazy rush to get everything planted out, and so not everything does that well until spring, and then we don't generally get a reasonable crop off everything. So let's just take a quick look. So this bed here is basically in shade almost the whole of winter. Those houses at the back there provide a lot of shade. Obviously this garage provides a lot of shade. That church up there, lots of shade. The sun is behind those buildings really most of the time. So the only thing that seems to grow in these conditions is this lamb's lettuce, but that doesn't grow anywhere near as well as the lamb's lettuce over in that bed, which we'll get to in a minute. So that's the one we're harvesting right now, and we'll harvest this one in February. So then we've got some spring cabbages. Again, they're not really doing anything, they're just sitting there, and then as soon as the sun hits them in sort of mid to late February, I'm guessing, can't remember exactly, they'll kind of shoot to life, and so will those few little spring onions that are in there. I've just cleared up this bed of chard, again just like the ones in the polytunnel, kind of decimated by caterpillars, and hopefully I've got most of those off now. I'll leave this bed in, I've got nothing else to put in here, so it's not competing with anything for space, and I suspect it will recover in order to give us a decent crop in March. I just took those little baby beetroot out, which were also interplanted into that bed. They're not going to do anything now other than go to seed. These are collards. These were planted way too late, so I started these 17th of August, so they were planted out sort of middle of September in a place that doesn't get any sun. So we've had no harvest off these, and we didn't expect to. The reason they're in here is to try out these varieties before we dedicate bed space to them in spring. So I'm pretty sure we will get some sort of crop off them in February and March, and as I said, that's the time when we'll be starting the collards for this year. Just a little bed there of green garlic, and they are all coming up. The whole bed is planted, it's just the ones that get the most shade here are only just coming up. And then this is winter miner's lettuce, and this has actually grown pretty well in the shade, although this patch here does get a little bit more sun, kind of just sneaks through sort of here sometime in the morning, so it does help it. It's a great little crop really. I'm thinking of growing some in the polytunnel actually next year or this year, planted out in October, because it's really nice. The only thing is, when it's sort of outside like this, you get quite a bit of slug damage on it, needs quite a lot of clean-up, so I'm hoping for less clean-up if I grew it in the polytunnel. That is one of the problems actually with all of these winter outside veggies. Lots and lots of clean-up needed. Strawberry bed looking abysmal, but hopefully that will spring back to life. Pruned all the gooseberries and blueberries and replanted the odd ones that we lost. All looking pretty good now, quite pleased with those. These are the cabbage beds, or going to be the cabbage and cauliflower beds. So right now they've got field beans in, looking a bit worse for wear, but really honestly there's nothing to worry about with field beans. They'll go crazy in sort of mid-February, and even now we're still taking a harvest off them every other week, hence they're not growing. In the little greenhouse, there's not much going on. These are lettuces that I grew inside under grow lights, but I put them outside now because I don't need them to grow anymore. Just one more harvest off them this weekend. Same with that spinach, and I'll get all that cleared out and ready for spring. Very useful little thing to have at home, this, for hardening off. Cherry tree, just a few new potatoes there, and the lawn needs a bit of a cut now. There's a lot of worm casts on it, so I need to get those brushed in and hopefully give it a cut, but it's so wet still at the moment. I don't want to leave it too long because we only have a little manual push mower. It gets pretty hard to cut if you leave it too long. And then here we've got that lamb's lettuce again. These plants are about a third bigger than the ones that grew mostly in the shade, and you can see actual real evidence that they do get a tiny bit of sun at this time of year. Not very much, because really that shed is shading them. And then these are colettes, and this is a good spot for me for colettes because these plants are the furthest behind, which means we get them in March, sort of April time, and that's the kind of time when I'm clearing the ones on the allotment. So this just gives me that last 2 or 3 weeks of harvest. Really, really valuable in the hungry gap. And then we've got little sprout plants. Again, all of these things planted really, really late, and hence really, really small. But I think I'll get a useful little sprout crop off these. There's still actually quite nice sprouts on them. And although they look a bit ragged, the sprout tops, they will actually form up quite nicely. So I should get nice sprout tops off those in February and spring. And then these kales actually are looking pretty good. They might not look very good to you, but they look quite good to me. There's a reasonable amount of leaf on them, but these will really start motoring now they're getting a little bit of sun. So yeah, these will be a pretty important crop for us as we go through spring, early spring, and then we'll start harvesting our new season kales in kind of mid to late April time sort of thing. So that's between February and middle of April. This is the kind of time when these kales really come into their own. We haven't really harvested these yet this year. And then we've got a whole load of new garlics, which I'm growing for my seed crop for next year in there. So these are all named varieties, because we've kind of lost track of the names of the varieties that we grow. So we've bought some new ones. Now we'll know what we're actually growing. So we'll be able to see what does best. So they're all up, I think, every single one of them. So I'm quite pleased with those. And that was the parsnip bed. So I've just cleared that bed. And that was interplanted with shallots. And then apple tree there. And then this corner is where I put my tomatoes. And at the moment it's full of green garlic. And this is a bit behind the stuff that's on the allotment. And again, it's mainly because it doesn't get much sun. But not to worry. This is the stuff that we'll be harvesting in April and May. And the stuff we've got on the allotment is the stuff we're harvesting a bit earlier than that, hopefully in March. And then again, just more evidence here that late leaks with the amount of sun that this garden gets in winter are not a good idea. So basically they have done nothing. just sat there. They might prick up. None of them have gone to seed yet, so we'll see what happens with them. That's why I haven't pulled them out yet. So by about May, this whole garden will be replanted for summer, but I'll start the replanting in March probably, and that'll be things like peas and lettuces and the like, and they will go under fleece. The side of the house always looks like a storage yard at this time of year. We'll just have a quick look. We've got some herbs here. We've got a new apple tree there. What's that one? Another apple tree there, and some perennial kale cuttings. Another apple tree there. Cherry tree. I think. What's that one? That's a cherry tree. New little cherry tree. Old cherry tree. Old cherry tree. Pear tree. Old cherry tree. And all of these tubs that have got compost in them are still full of potatoes all the way down here, and that'll last us until the new season crops arrive in late April. Let's take a quick look at the front garden. Debbie's just cleared this up, so we did have a lot of kale in here, spring onions in here. Everything's been harvested and eaten, and we haven't got very much left. We've just remulched the beds, remulched the paths, and so this is all ready to go in spring. We've just got these little decorative kales here, these overwintered tough ball Japanese onions there, and some chard there, more chard there, that's gone to seed, more chard around there. So the chard in the front garden's looking way better than it is in the back, because this didn't seem to get the caterpillars. And lots more colettes. Yeah, and these are looking really nice. We're going to get a really good harvest off these. In fact, we've been harvesting these since about November time, mainly the ones at the bottom of the stems. So hope you like this quick video, and if you're wondering kind of where all the other stuff is, of course we've got the allotment as well, and that's where the vast majority of stuff is being grown at the moment. Loads and loads of spinach and lettuce and brassicas and all sorts of stuff, and of course we've got a pretty good store as well. So that's pretty much it. My name's Steve, this is the Seaside Kitchen Garden and Allotment channel, and I'll see you soon.